Immediately after the Minoans went into decline, their space was taken up by Mycenaean Greeks, the same kind of Greeks that were involved in the fall of Troy, Agamemnon and Ulysses and all that lot. Shortly thereafter, about the 11th century BC, you see Dorian Greeks coming into the area. This is a different kind of Greek, and it's the kind of Greek that makes the basis of the classical and pre-classical Greek period. Now, when times are good, people build their houses and their cities on the flatland, near the agricultural ground, near the coastline. But when times are bad, they climb mountains and they go into the interior to keep away from trouble. Well, that's exactly what happened on Thera. After the time of the Minoans, the local residents climbed up to the highest spots in Thera to build their cities and make their living. So we're going up to ancient Thera, which is of course not as ancient as Akrotiri. It's not Minoan. It is Greek and to some extent Roman. Incidentally, that is the airport out there in the distance. Now you can go up to ancient Thera by mule if you like, just the way that you could get up to the city of Thera from the old port. But we're not going to be doing that. We'll be taking a more modern conveyance. Notice there are no guardrails. Ancient Thera is Santorini's second most important archaeological site. Even so, it's not marked at all hardly, and there's not a whole lot to see up at the top. Mostly what you have is a really good view of the surrounding terrain and the foundation stones of a number of buildings. Now this is a marker from the Roman period, and what it indicates is that one of the leading local citizens had repaired this public building, and the city council set up this monument to honor him. Something I hadn't seen before, though, was this bug tussle between two lizards. It's apparently two male lizards, and they seem to be fighting over territory, I would think. The challenger is taking it in the stomach. The champion is defending his territory and probably his girls, and probably his ant supply too, come to think of it. In any event, the challenger is getting beat up pretty badly, and pretty soon he's going to have to take a break and run for it. Well, he did run, but he didn't run far enough for as far as the champion was concerned, and the champion's still on his heels. Now Thera, or Santorini if you prefer, is part of a group of islands in the Aegean Sea called the Cyclades. They're called that because they are in a circle of sorts. And you can see that circle fairly clearly. We're going to be going from Thera over to an island called Delos, which was extremely important in classical Greek times. This story revolves around Leto. Leto was worshipped on Crete and on the face of Asia Minor in very ancient times, and her parents were both Titans. That is, they were old gods, gods from before the time of Zeus. The old story is that Zeus makes Leto pregnant. Hera is upset and will not allow the goddess of the midwives to come to her and help her with the pregnancy, so she can't give birth. Zeus's brother Poseidon feels sorry for her, so he finds an island on the bottom of the sea and he brings it up. That island was invisible, or Delos. In any case, this island is above the sea now, and it is therefore visible and called Delos. And that's where she gives birth. Artemis, who's also known as Diana to the Romans, was the first of the twins to be born, and then she acted as midwife for her brother Apollo. Today, this palm tree stands at the spot where the twins were born. And the symbol of the island is actually overlooking them. It's a collection of lions from Naxos. Zeus was there for the birth. He observed it from Mount Kinthos. That's going to be the highest point that you're about ready to see here. It's above those temples a little bit, and I'm going to be walking up there, and I'm going to be taking some videotape from the top of the mountain. It's not really quite as high as you would think it is from the video here. The birthplace is where that grove of vegetation is. There used to be a sacred lake there. This area is so dry, though, that sacred lake is gone. And on that sacred lake they used to have sacred swans, but no swans today. In any event, where that palm tree is, that's where the birth took place. Incidentally, I took a nap there. And incidentally, those sacred swans used to give oracles. This is also the place where they had the Delos Games, and the Delos Festival was here. This was a sacred island, sacred to Apollo and Artemis. After the wars with Persia, Athens formed an alliance here. The Delos alliance involved almost all the Greek city-states, and they had their treasury here on Delos. Eventually, the Athenians declared the entire island to be sacred, and therefore they moved the entire population off the island and dug up all the graves so that no one was ever born or died on the island. And they took the treasury away and they built the Parthenon with it. They stole it, actually. When the Romans took over, they declared it a tax-free zone, and that revitalized it considerably. In fact, as many as 10 or even 20,000 slaves a day may have been sold on Delos. But then in 88 BC, Mithridates, a king of the Black Sea area, invaded the island. He killed all of the 20,000 people that were on the island, and he stole everything that he possibly could. Shortly thereafter, a pirate dropped by. His name was Apollodorus, and he took anything else that was left. Delos never recovered from that. Piracy is a recurring theme among these islands. Anytime that there's a weak political organization, a weak navy, piracy crops up, and rich, unprotected cities are a pirate's delight. As a matter of fact, even Julius Caesar ran into the pirates when he was a young man here. When he was a young man, he did what all young Roman aristocrats were doing. He did a tour of Greece, much like the Europeans did when they were doing that sort of thing back in the 19th century or so. In any event, he was captured by pirates himself. And when the pirates discovered who he was, and he made sure that they did, they arranged to have him ransomed. As a matter of fact, Julius Caesar himself really was the person that arranged the ransom. He wanted to make sure the pirates knew that he was important. As he was being ransomed away from the pirates, just before he left them, he told the pirates he would crucify them. And he did. When the Romans had had enough of the pirates, and they did pretty quickly, they commissioned Pompey the Great to build a huge Roman navy and send it out there and clear all of the pirates from all of the eastern Mediterranean. It was a very effective and efficient operation. The pirates didn't really return in force to this area until after the time when the Byzantine navy started going by the way. This is the theater. It can hold about 5,000 people, and that probably represents all of the male citizens that happen to be in the area. The water from the theater runs down into the city cistern, and that cistern is a fairly good size. Almost every house had its own cistern. This particular house, we actually know who owns it. It's owned by Cleopatra. She had her name carved in the walls. This isn't the famous Cleopatra, however. In the upper right, there's a current resident of the island. In the lower left, there's a resident of Thera. Notice that these lizards are not nearly the same. The lizard from Thera is a European lizard, but the lizard that's on Delos is African. I wonder how it got there. This island was a neglected ruin for over 2,000 years, but in 1872 the French came in and started doing excavations. They're still at it, although they're going quite slowly.